Now let's get to the next headliner topic on this edition of the Rock News Roundup podcast, and that is Matt Cameron, the drummer for Pearl Jam, the former drummer and drummer for Soundgarden, is speaking out in a new interview that he did with Billboard. I found this information on loudwire.com. So Matt Cameron is talking about everything that has been going on in the last little while, including his departure from Pearl Jam, as well as talking about new Soundgarden music. They've been trying to work on new Soundgarden music using unused tracks from the late, great Chris Cornell for quite a while, but there was a lot going on in terms of the legal battles. Anyways, let's get into this. So Pearl Jam, Matt Cameron left the band after 27 years, and in this new interview, he talks a little bit more about what happened and what led him to that decision, and he said he gave the remaining members of Pearl Jam a lot of notice that he was going to be leaving the band. And he said that basically the reason he left the band is that he was having problems with the touring and the length of the shows that Pearl Jam have been performing. Pearl Jam are one of those legendary live bands. They're known for doing 3-hour plus concerts. They're at total Springsteen level in terms of doing really, really long concerts. They're known to change up the set list a lot more than most bands do when they go out and play a tour. So Pearl Jam are a living, breathing, live musical entity, but Matt Cameron said that he was having trouble with that in terms of the constant touring with Pearl Jam, the 3-hour plus sets that they were playing every night. And that's to be expected. You know, in the last segment, I was talking about the Foo Fighters and talking about the energy and the stamina needed for a drummer to be able to keep up with them musically. And that goes the same for Pearl Jam. You got to remember, you know what, I'm going to say this, maybe my bandmates and people that I've played with over the years might disagree with me, but I think the hardest positions, the hardest parts to play in the band are the drummer and the singer. I'm a singer and a guitar player. So as a singer, you know, I'm putting out so much energy on stage to sing the songs, to sing them correctly, to be able to sing all night without losing my voice. You have to take an incredible amount of care to take care of your voice. And then when you get on stage, you're putting out so much energy. And not to say that the other people in the band aren't putting out a lot of energy, but as a singer, you're putting out a lot of energy. And I would say that even more so than the singer, the other person in the band who's putting out the most energy is the drummer, right? It takes so much to be able to play drums for a full set. Obviously, there's so many professional drummers. It's stamina, it's energy, it's being able to be the backbone of the band, because really any good band is dependent on their drummer. And so Matt Cameron, who, even though he's an industry veteran, he's been playing with the band for 27 years with Pearl Jam, he was having a hard time with doing 3-hour sets every night, constant touring. Pearl Jam are always on the road. And he was saying that instead of going on stage and playing for 3 hours plus to the audience, he would rather go on stage and play a 70-minute set that's going to melt people's faces and really blow them away and leaving them wanting more. And I have to say I agree with him, because I feel like there's a little bit of a happy medium in there. 70 minutes, if you're going to see Pearl Jam and they only play for 70 minutes, that's a little bit disappointing, because they're a band with this crazy catalog with so many hits. Concert tickets and prices are so crazy these days. We've had this conversation on the channel before, where the price of things is so expensive that you really want to get your money's worth, but then you don't want to go overboard. You know, when I saw Oasis play last month, I got my shirt on. When I saw Oasis play last month, they played 23 songs. They played for like 2 hours. And to me, that was perfect. And I even though I would probably watch Oasis play all night long, I'd watch them play forever if I could. Concerts have a certain shelf life to them, and I feel like Pearl Jam, when they're doing 3 hours there, might be a little bit too much. And it sounds like it was getting to be a little bit too much for Matt Cameron. He put his time in with Pearl Jam. He put 27 years in with that band, and it's to be expected that it might be a little bit too much after a while. But on the plus side, him leaving Pearl Jam has given him the time and the space to go back and work with Soundgarden, because Soundgarden, he was talking about in this interview, the band had been working on the final songs that they have with the late great Chris Cornell, and this is coming after a really prolonged, long lawsuit battle with Chris Cornell's widow, Vicky Cornell. It was pretty messy there for a while, but from what I understand, all those legal things have been worked out, and Soundgarden are back in the studio working on these new Soundgarden songs that were left over from before Chris Cornell passed away. He says in this interview with Billboard that he wants the entire album to be complete before releasing any singles. And some people have been asking, like, why haven't you put out one-off singles? He's saying he wants everything to be done before the band embarks on any sort of promotional campaign or release campaign for this new music. He says there's 8 songs total from this new session for Soundgarden, and he says the band is halfway done, so they're working on it right now. Kim's working on the guitar parts for the record, and then Matt Cameron was also talking about the emotional aspect of it, right? Because it's not just about going into the studio and completing these songs. He says that he was in the studio working on these songs, and to hear Chris Cornell's voice rocking out, even doing the tender moments on these unreleased songs, has been a really emotional thing for the band. And I'm saying a quote from him. He's saying it was empowering, but also gut wrenching. And I can totally understand how that there'd be those two sides to the coin in this particular session. But I'm really happy that Soundgarden have finally worked out all these issues with Vicky Cornell. They're back in the studio working on these final 8 songs, because I feel like we need that epilogue. We need that final piece of work from Soundgarden. I really feel like their work was unfinished, unfortunately, by the death of Chris Cornell, which was so tragic. One of the biggest losses in the world of rock music, one of the greatest voices in all of the world of rock. That is still such a huge loss. And as a Soundgarden fan, I loved King Animal, which was their last studio record that came out in 2012. That was their reunion after being away for almost 20 years. So when they released King Animal in 2012, I was blown away by that record. I think that's one of the best Soundgarden records. For them to come back after such a long time away and be able to release such a great record, that cannot be understated. And there's so many great songs on that record. Been Away Too Long, Non-State Actor, By Crooked Steps, 1,000 Days Before. I think it's called 1,000 Days Before, or 1,000 Miles Before. Anyways, so many great songs on that record. Rowing is another great one. Black Saturday or Black Friday. So many great songs. Black Saturday, I think. So many great songs on that King Animal record. And I was so excited at the time. We got Soundgarden back. They were better than ever. The songs are great. They were getting played on the radio all the time. And I was really looking forward to seeing what else would come of that reunion from Soundgarden, which was unfortunately cut short with the tragic death of Chris Cornell. So I was really wondering, what's going to happen? So the fact that they have these Soundgarden songs that are going to be recorded, they have unused vocals from Chris Cornell. There's going to be 8 songs total. I think that's going to be amazing when they come out. I think they're going to blow our minds. No really word yet on when they're going to come out, but I think they're absolutely going to blow our minds with their new material. But then on top of this, all this stuff that's going on, Soundgarden are going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. So this is going to be a huge thing for Soundgarden. Pearl Jam's already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Matt Cameron was saying in this interview with Billboard that he said that this induction with Soundgarden is a little bit more special than the induction that he had with Pearl Jam, because when it comes to Soundgarden, he was there from day one. He helped build Soundgarden from the ground up with those guys, and then with Pearl Jam it was a little bit of a different situation, because he came in much later. He came in, I think it was on Jack Iron still played on Yield. So Binaural in 2000 was the first record to feature Matt Cameron, even though I think he played with him live previously before that. But he joined that late. There had already been a bunch of different drummers. Pearl Jam was on album number 5, album number 6 when he joined the band. And so the fact that he was one of the key elements of building Soundgarden from the ground up is one of the reasons why he considers the Soundgarden induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to be much more important. So I think that is really cool, really awesome that Soundgarden is being inducted, 100% deserved. So the induction ceremony for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for Soundgarden with Matt Cameron, as well as a bunch of other different members, ex-members of the band, is going to be happening November 8th in Los Angeles, and that's going to be streaming on Disney+. So, you know what? This was really cool, actually, for Matt Cameron to do this interview, because sometimes when people leave bands and members leave bands, we don't always get the full story of what happened, or we might speculate on all sorts of different reasons why it might happen outside of just the musical reasons for those things to happen. And he gave us some clarity on that, right? He's saying, Matt Cameron's saying, I left Pearl Jam because it's not to say he couldn't handle it anymore, because he's one of the greatest drummers out there. I'm sure he could more than handle playing those shows, but from a creative perspective, from a musical perspective, he was getting tired of playing those really long shows and going and doing all that touring. And really, he's earned a right to be able to do what he wants to creatively. I'm sure he's fine financially. So it's awesome that he's able to just say, you know what, I want to do something different. I want to go back to making this music from Soundgarden. He wants to work with Wellwater Conspiracy or whatever other project that he's working with. It's just good to see that he's doing something creative and that he's following his musical muse in a way. So yeah, it's kind of sucks that he left Pearl Jam. We still don't know who's going to replace the drummer in Pearl Jam, but we'll see. And then it's awesome that Soundgarden are working on these final 8 songs to feature the late great Chris Cornell. So I'm very excited for the induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Very excited for new music from Soundgarden whenever that comes out, because I think that's going to blow our minds. But you know what? You guys, it's your turn. Hop into the comments below. Let me know what you thought about these comments from Matt Cameron about his reasons for leaving Pearl Jam. Are you excited for these new unreleased songs from Soundgarden? Are you excited for them to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Hop into the comments below and let me know your thoughts.